I'm Aaron Jones, and I'm here with Steve Basic, and
What's up, buddy?
we are walking one of Steve's job sites. And I'm familiar with steel because of some of my commercial background, but it's not something that I see in residential construction in my market, at least not very often. And while I know what this is here, Steve, what led you to using steel in this situation instead of going with like a larger LVL or changing the structure so that you didn't need it?
Yeah, so the minute you see steel, the real question is first of all, why the steel? Meaning, what job is the steel doing, right? Because you can look at the steel and immediately you could potentially say, oh, they put that in because it's a big opening and that's the header. And you'd be wrong, because it has absolutely nothing to do with the header. The header's a byproduct of its position. But the real reason is because it's what's termed a moment frame. And the reason, or the easiest way to tell a moment frame, I can walk up and I can tell by two things. One is there bracing or blocking, steel blocking there. And two, is there a steel plate on the top that connects the column to the beam. So the two things that are happening there, the plate that's on the top is keeping the beam from rotating, right? So if it was a standard header, it would be allowed to rotate at those two reaction points. But because we weld that plate to the top, it can't bend and it can't rotate. So that's telling me that the whole purpose of that is now to keep that a rigid 90-degree angle.
So the first thing I always look for when it comes to steel is if it's not bolted, if there's no bolted flange, I immediately know that there's something going on beyond just straight downward bearing. And if you take a look up here, you can see that we've got a scissor truss, and yes, there's a gable truss, but there's no weight to speak of above.
Right.
Everything is transferred to the outside, so I knew immediately that there was no reason, like you've already mentioned, for load to have steel up there. So that's why I asked the question.
Yeah. So then, because we don't have enough wall length to develop enough shear for that size opening in a ratio to the oversized wall, then again we could have probably maybe got away with a Simpson strong wall. Our structural engineer just likes to do moment frames. He has all the details. They're already there. They are pretty easy. We're fortunate because we're 10 minutes out of Boston. We have a handful of companies. You call them. They do the shop drawings. They do the fabrication in the shop. They come out with their crane. They put this moment frame up in about an hour and a half, and they drive away.
Very
So
nice.
it's real easy around here. If you get to some of the remote areas, then yeah, maybe we wouldn't have as much luck. But that solves it. And notice it just doesn't stop at the floor. It goes all the way down and is bolted to the concrete foundation below. So that also tells you that it has something to do with the moment and the shear that's happening inside this wall system.
Well, I'm excited to come back again and see this space once you get it finished out, because, and I love this about all of Steve's job sites, and it's not just because Steve's standing in the middle here right now, but there's always a window or an opening you look out that is literally a picture. And I think that once this is all framed in and we've got the glass in, that looking out this way, once it's all finished in landscape, is going to be a picture.
You know, Aaron, one of the other details over here, if you remember out at the Build Show Build Boston, we're doing a flat ceiling in here, but we're going to do a drop section out of some kind of specialty wood, and it's going to come out.
How far are you
here.
bringing it out?
This one's probably going to come out 3 or 4 feet, and that way there it'll kind of identify this as the dining area nook inside this larger space.
All right, that's it. I definitely have to come back. I'm a huge fan of indoor soffits.
So, and,
Well-
we're definitely not short on windows in this house.
No. Well, thanks for explaining that, Steve. And we'll see you next time I visit Steve.
It's always good to take a moment to talk about moment frames.
It never fails. There's always at least one.